My name is Camille Lawson. I'm a nurse, a single mother, and the woman who was erased from the life of the man I loved, all because of one lie. 48 hours before his wedding to my half-sister, I received an invitation, and for the first time in 14 years, my son looked at me and asked, "Mom, is he my dad?" I couldn't stay silent anymore, and what happened next shook an entire family to its core. Before I share the full story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And if you've ever survived a family betrayal, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you're going to want to hear what happened next. The wedding invitation arrived on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were always my longest shifts at Pittsburgh General, and I'd just finished changing a particularly difficult IV when Marcy from reception knocked on the break room door. "Package for you, Camille," she said, handing me the cream-colored envelope. My hands were still slightly damp from washing them, and I left a small watermark on the expensive paper. The return address made my stomach drop. Boston, Massachusetts. The Whitmore family crest gleamed in gold embossing. 14 years. 14 years of silence, and now this. Inside, the invitation was everything I'd expect from old Boston money. Thick cardstock, delicate calligraphy, a subtle scent of lavender. My eyes skimmed past the flourishes until they landed on the names. "Mr. and Mrs. Richard Whitmore request the honor of your presence at the marriage of their son, Jonah Alexander Whitmore to Miss Emery Catherine Lawson." Emery, my half-sister. I must have made a sound because Nina, another nurse, looked up from her yogurt. "You okay, Cam?" "Fine," I lied, stuffing the invitation back in its envelope. But my hands shook as I grabbed my coffee mug. The rest of my shift blurred together. Vitals, medications, patient charts. I went through the motions while my mind reeled. How did they even find my work address? Why invite me at all? The Whitmores had made it crystal clear 14 years ago that I was to disappear from their lives completely. By the time I got home, exhaustion weighed on my shoulders like a lead blanket. Our small apartment in Shadyside smelled like the lasagna Mrs. Chen from next door had dropped off. Marcus was at the kitchen table, earbuds in, homework spread out before him. "Hey, Mom," he said without looking up. "Mrs. Chen brought food again. I already ate." I dropped my bag by the door, kicking off my clogs. The invitation seemed to burn a hole through the fabric. "That's nice of her. You thank her?" "Yeah." He glanced up then, and those eyes. God, those eyes that looked exactly like his father's, studied my face. "You look weird. Bad day?" "Just tired." I ruffled his dark hair as I passed, heading for my bedroom. "Finish your homework." But I'd forgotten how observant 13-year-olds could be. I'd barely changed out of my scrubs when Marcus appeared in my doorway, holding the invitation I'd carelessly left on the kitchen counter. "Who's getting married?" he asked. Then his expression shifted as he read the names. His gaze shot to my dresser, where a single faded photo sat tucked behind my jewelry box. A photo I thought he'd never noticed. "Mom, is this the guy from your picture?" The blood drained from my face. "Marcus. Jonah Whitmore." He said the name slowly, like he was tasting it. Is he my dad?" We'd had the conversation before, of course, when he was younger and asked why he didn't have a father like other kids. I'd given him gentle half-truths. "Your dad couldn't be with us. It's complicated. He doesn't know about you." But I'd never lied outright. Never said he was dead or gone forever. Just absent. Now my son stood in my doorway, invitation in one hand, and I saw him putting pieces together I'd tried so hard to keep scattered. "Yes," I whispered. Marcus stared at the invitation like it might bite him. "He's marrying someone named Lawson, like us. My half-sister. Your aunt, technically. The one Grandma always said was perfect." His voice dripped with 13-year-old sarcasm. "Before she died 5 years ago, my mother never missed a chance to mention how well Emery was doing. Harvard Law. Junior partner at 30. Everything I wasn't." "That's the one." Marcus sat on the edge of my bed, still clutching the invitation. "Why didn't he want me?" the question I'd dreaded for 13 years. It's not that simple, Mom. He looked at me with eyes far too old for his age. Just tell me the truth. So I sat beside him, took his hand, and prepared to crack open the sealed door I'd kept locked for so long. But before I could speak, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Be very careful what you tell the boy. Some secrets are better left buried. My blood turned to ice. Mom? Marcus's voice seemed distant. You're scaring me. I forced myself to breathe, sliding my phone face down on the nightstand. Sorry, sweetheart, just someone from work. He didn't buy it, but he let it go. Instead, he smoothed out the invitation on his knee. So tell me, about him, about before. Where to begin? How do you explain to your child that his existence was seen as a threat to a family empire? I was 22, I started, pulling my knees to my chest like I used to when I was scared. Working at a bookstore in Cambridge while finishing my nursing degree. Your father came in looking for some obscure philosophy text. I could still see him, tall, slightly rumpled, nothing like the polished Whitmore heir he was supposed to be. He'd knocked over a display trying to reach a high shelf and spent 20 minutes helping me reorganize it, apologizing the whole time. We talked for hours that first day. He kept coming back, always needing another book. I smiled, despite myself. Took him 3 weeks to ask me to coffee. Was he nice? Marcus asked quietly. He was kind, I said, choosing my words carefully. Funny. He'd quote poetry at random moments. He taught me to play chess in the park. What I didn't tell Marcus, how Jonah's family had been grooming him since birth to take over Whitmore Industries, how he'd rebelled by studying literature instead of business, how his mother Claudia had seen me as another form of rebellion to be stamped out. We dated for 8 months, I continued. He talked about the future, our future, moving to Vermont, opening a used bookstore. He wanted to write novels. I laughed, but it came out bitter. We were so young. What happened? I closed my eyes. I got pregnant. Marcus shifted beside me. We'd never really talked about the circumstances of his birth. He knew I'd been young, that it was hard, but not this. I was terrified, I admitted. But Jonah, he seemed happy. Scared, but happy. He said we'd figure it out together. He was going to talk to his parents, get access to his trust fund early. We'd be okay. But he left instead. He disappeared. The word tasted like ash. One day he was there, planning our life, and the next, gone. His phone disconnected. His apartment empty, like he'd never existed. I remembered standing outside his building in the rain, 7 weeks pregnant and shaking, while the doorman told me the Whitmore family had cleared out the unit overnight. A week later, I got a visit from his mother and their lawyer. My hands clenched involuntarily. They said Jonah had reconsidered, that he was young with his whole life ahead of him. They offered me money to handle the situation and disappear. Handle the... Marcus's face darkened as understanding dawned. They wanted you to... Yes, I touched his face gently. But I couldn't. The moment I knew you existed, you were mine. You were wanted, even if I had to want you enough for 2 people. He leaned into my hand. What about the money? They sent a check. I tore it up. I could still see Claudia's face, cold and perfect as marble. She said I was ruining her son's life, that if I kept you, I'd never see Jonah again, that they'd make sure of it. Did you try to find him? For months, but the Whitmores have resources I couldn't match. Private investigators, lawyers, connections everywhere. It was like he'd been erased. I swallowed hard. Eventually, I had to focus on you, on building our life. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then, the man at my first birthday. I froze. What? There's a picture in your bottom drawer, my first birthday. There's a man in the background, blurry, but I always wondered who he was. My heart hammered. I'd forgotten about that photo, taken by my mother at Marcus's party. A figure in the background I'd never noticed until years later, when it was too late to matter. I don't know, I lied, because I did know, or suspected. Someone had been watching us, making sure I kept my end of the unspoken bargain. Marcus stood abruptly. I want to go. What? To the wedding. His jaw set in that stubborn way that was purely him, not inherited from anyone. I want to see him. I want him to see me. Marcus, no. You never lied to me, Mom. Not really. But he did. He's been lying for 13 years. His hands fisted at his sides. I deserve to exist in front of him, even if it's just once. My phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. The boy should stay hidden. For his own good. This time, Marcus saw my face. What is it? Nothing, I said. But I was already deciding. 14 years of shadows and threats and silence. Maybe it was time to step into the light. Boston hadn't changed much in 14 years. The same cobblestone streets that had charmed me at 22 now felt like a maze designed to trap. Marcus pressed his face to the taxi window as we wound through Beacon Hill, his eyes wide at the federal-style townhouses and gas-lit street lamps. This is where he lives? He asked. His family, yes? I pointed to a massive brownstone on the corner. That's the Whitmore house. Your grandfather had it restored in the 90s. Grandfather. Marcus tested the word like foreign currency. Weird. We'd booked a modest hotel near Faneuil Hall, far enough from Beacon Hill to feel safe, but close enough to, what? Make our statement? Ruin a wedding? I still wasn't sure what we were doing here. The room was small, but clean. Marcus immediately claimed the bed by the window, dumping his backpack and pulling out his laptop. What are you doing? I asked, hanging our clothes in the narrow closet. Research. His fingers flew across the keyboard. Jonah Alexander Whitmore, lots of hits. MBA from Wharton, took over as CFO of Whitmore Industries 3 years ago. Engaged to attorney Emery Lawson as of last spring. He looked up. Your sister's pretty. She was. I'd seen the engagement photos online, Emery's delicate features and honey blonde hair next to Jonah's darker coloring. They looked like they belonged together, wrapped in cashmere and old money confidence. There's a rehearsal dinner tomorrow night, Marcus continued, reading from his screen. Boston Harbor Yacht Club. Members and invited guests only. We're not crashing the rehearsal dinner. Why not? We were invited to the wedding. That invitation wasn't meant as a welcome, it was... I paused, trying to find the right words. Sometimes rich families send invitations to people they've wronged, like a public acknowledgement that they're moving on while you're stuck in the past. Marcus's face darkened. That's sick. That's the Whitmores. He was quiet for a moment, then pulled something from his bag. My heart stopped. It was a printed email. Marcus, what did you do? I found his work email. I sent him something. At my expression, he rushed on. I didn't say who I was, just sent a picture for my first birthday. You and me. Oh, God. I sank onto my bed. When? 3 days ago. He bit his lip. He didn't respond. Of course he didn't. Jonah had spent 14 years not responding. Why would an anonymous email change that? My phone rang. Unknown number. This time, I answered. Ms. Lawson. The voice was male, cultured, unfamiliar. I believe you've arrived in Boston. Who is this? Someone concerned about your welfare and your son's. The rehearsal dinner is tomorrow night. It would be unwise to attend. Are you threatening us? A pause. I'm trying to protect you. The Whitmores have ways of handling complications. Your son doesn't deserve to be caught in their web. My son deserves to know his father. Does he? Even if that knowledge puts him in danger? The line went dead. Marcus watched me with those two knowing eyes. Who was that? I don't know. But I was starting to suspect. The same person who'd warned me by text. The same shadow who'd haunted the edges of our life. That night, I barely slept. Marcus tossed and turned in the next bed, pretending to sleep while scrolling through his phone. At 3 a.m., I gave up and stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. Mom? Marcus's voice was small in the darkness. Yeah, baby? What if he doesn't want me, even after he sees me? I crossed to his bed, smoothing his hair like I used to when he had nightmares. Then he's the one who loses. Not you. Never you. But what if? No what ifs. I kissed his forehead. Tomorrow, we go to that dinner. We show up with our heads high, and whatever happens, we face it together, like always. He nodded against my hand, like always. But as I returned to my bed, another text lit up my phone. The yacht club has security cameras. The harbor has deep water. Please reconsider. For the first time in 14 years, real fear crept down my spine. Not for me, I'd faced down the Whitmores before, but for Marcus, who just wanted to be seen by the man who'd never known he existed. Tomorrow would change everything. The question was whether we'd survive the change. The Boston Harbor Yacht Club glowed against the evening sky like a beacon of privilege. Marcus fidgeted with his tie. We'd bought it that afternoon at Target, along with his first real suit. He looked older, more like Jonah, and it made my chest tight. "You sure about this?" I asked one last time as our Uber pulled up. He nodded, jaw set. "I'm sure." The security guard barely glanced at our invitation before waving us through. Inside, the club was all dark wood and nautical paintings, filled with people who looked like they'd never worn anything from Target in their lives. I spotted Claudia Whitmore immediately. 14 years hadn't touched her. Same silver blonde bob, same predatory grace. She was holding court near the bar when her eyes landed on us. The champagne flute in her hand trembled, just once. Then her face smoothed into marble. "Oh my God," Marcus whispered. "Is that—" But I was looking past Claudia to the man beside her. Jonah. He'd aged well, of course. The boyish softness was gone, replaced by sharp cheekbones and careful control. He was mid-laugh at something Emery was saying when he saw us. The laugh died. His face went white. "Camille?" Emery noticed his reaction and turned. Her smile faltered. "Oh, you came." The room didn't stop. Conversations continued, waiters circulated, but our corner of it froze. Jonah's eyes moved from me to Marcus, and I watched him do the math. Watched understanding dawn like a physical blow. "We should go," I said quietly to Marcus. This was a mistake. The warning texts were right. "No." Marcus stepped forward, and his voice carried across the space between us. "I just wanted to meet you once before you became someone else's father." The words landed like a grenade. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. Claudia moved first, gliding over with deadly purpose. "Security!" she called without raising her voice. "These people need to be escorted." "Mother!" Jonah's voice was hoarse. "Don't." He took a step toward us, then another. Up close, I could see the similarities that photographs had hidden. The way Marcus tilted his head when thinking, the shape of his hands, the stubborn set of his mouth. "How old are you?" Jonah asked Marcus directly. 13. Marcus lifted his chin. 13 years, 4 months, and 6 days. Jonah flinched. Behind him, Emery made a small sound. "I see." His voice was carefully neutral, professional. CFO voice, not the voice that used to read me poetry. "And you're here because I exist." Marcus's voice cracked slightly, but he pushed on. "Because for 13 years you got to pretend I didn't. But I did. I do." "Jonah," Emery touched his arm. "Maybe we should—" "You told me," she terminated. He turned to her, and there was something wild in his eyes. "You said your sister took care of it. That's what you told me when I asked." My blood froze. "When you asked? When did you—" "Please," Claudia's voice cut through. "Not here, not like this." But Emery was staring at me, confusion clear on her face. "I thought— Mother said you'd handled things, took the money and—" "Mother?" I stared at her. "Our mother?" The pieces clicked horribly into place. My mother, who'd always favored Emery, who'd died 5 years ago, taking her secrets with her, who'd been so adamant that I move on, forget Jonah, never look back. "She said you'd done the sensible thing," Emery whispered. "I never knew." "Because nobody asked me." The words exploded out. "Nobody ever asked what I wanted or what I chose. You all just decided I should disappear, and when I didn't play along, you made sure Jonah disappeared instead." "That's not—" Claudia started. "Isn't it?" I rounded on her. "You showed up at my apartment with lawyers. You threatened me. You made it clear that keeping my baby meant losing everything else." You were nobody, Claudia said coldly. A bookstore clerk who got lucky. My son had a future. I was somebody to him. I pointed at Jonah. Or did you threaten him too? Did you make him choose between his trust fund and his family? Jonah's silence was answer enough. Marcus made a sound, hurt and young and awful. Without thinking, I reached for him, but he stepped back. I need air, he said, and bolted for the exit. I started after him, but a hand caught my arm. Not Claudia or security. A man in a waiter's uniform with familiar eyes. Let me, he said quietly. I'll watch him. You finish this. He was gone before I could respond, following Marcus into the night. Something about him nagged at me, but Jonah was speaking. I looked for you, he said quietly. After. I hired investigators, but you'd vanished. Your mother made sure of that. I didn't know about the baby. About him. His voice broke on the last word. I swear I didn't know. I wanted to believe him. God, how I wanted to believe him. But 14 years of silence weighed more than words. His name is Marcus, I said, and now you do know. Then I walked out, leaving the wreckage of their perfect rehearsal dinner behind. I found Marcus at the harbor's edge with the waiter who wasn't really a waiter. Up close, in the lamplight, recognition hit like a slap. Daniel? He gave a rueful smile. Hello, Camille. Daniel Chen, Claudia Whitmore's former assistant. The man who'd stood silently behind her that awful day 14 years ago, taking notes while she dismantled my life. Mom, Marcus looked between us, confused and still upset. Go wait in the club lobby, I said quietly. Please. For once, he didn't argue. When he was gone, I turned on Daniel. The texts were from you, the warnings. He nodded. I've been trying to protect you both. Claudia, she's dangerous when cornered, and tonight cornered her. Why do you care? Because I owe you a debt. He pulled out a cigarette but didn't light it, just turned it over in his fingers. 15 years ago, I hit someone with my car. A nursing student walking home from her late shift. I was drunk, scared, and I fled the scene. My hand went to my shoulder, to the old scar hidden beneath my dress. The hit and run that nearly killed me at 21. The driver they never caught. You could have died. Should have, the doctor said. But you fought. His voice was rough. I followed your recovery, saw you graduate, get your job, meet Jonah. When Claudia ordered me to investigate you, I thought it was cosmic justice. A chance to, I don't know, guard you from afar. So you helped her destroy my life? I tried to minimize the damage. The original plan was worse. So much worse. He met my eyes. But I kept everything. Every document, every recording. 14 years of evidence. Waiting. For what? For tonight. He pulled out a flash drive. Jonah's finally strong enough to stand up to her. The company is his now, not hers. And Marcus? Marcus deserves the truth. I stared at the small device. What's on it? Everything. The forged letters saying you'd left town. The fake medical records showing a termination that never happened. The DNA test Claudia had run when Marcus was 2. She's known all along he was Jonah's. She just made sure Jonah never found out. The test was real? She had someone follow you to a pediatrician appointment. Got a hair sample from Marcus's coat. He pressed the drive into my hand. There's more. Recordings of her instructing me to intercept Jonah's attempts to find you. Proof that she had your mother paid to keep you away. My mother? But even as I said it, it made horrible sense. The sudden down payment on her house. Her insistence I stay in Pittsburgh, build a life there, forget Boston. I'm sorry, Daniel said quietly, for all of it. Before I could respond, shouts erupted from the yacht club. Through the windows, I could see security trying to restrain Jonah while Claudia gestured wildly. We should go, Daniel said. This is about to get ugly. But I was already moving toward the building. Inside, I found chaos. Jonah had backed his mother against the bar, his face twisted with rage I'd never seen before. 14 years, he shouted. My son existed for 14 years, and you knew. I protected you, Claudia snarled back. from a mistake that would have ruined everything we built. We? There is no we anymore. He turned to the room at large, to the Boston elite watching in horrified fascination. My mother has been lying to all of you, using Whitmore resources to destroy a young woman whose only crime was loving me. Jonah, stop. Emery reached for him, but he shook her off. No, I'm done stopping. Done playing the perfect son. He looked directly at me. Where's Marcus? Lobby, I managed. He strode past me, past everyone. I heard Marcus's surprised voice, then silence. Through the doorway, I could see them, father and son, finally face to face. Jonah dropped to his knees, putting himself at Marcus's eye level. I couldn't hear what they said, but I saw Marcus's shoulders shake, saw Jonah pull him into a fierce hug. This isn't over, Claudia hissed behind me. I turned, feeling strangely calm. Yes, it is. I held up the flash drive. Unless you want every news outlet in Boston to get copies of this tomorrow. Her face went gray. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I met her gaze steadily. I've got nothing left to lose. You made sure of that 14 years ago. For the first time since I'd known her, Claudia Whitmore had no response. She looked old, suddenly, diminished. I left her there and went to collect my son. Both my sons, maybe. Because Jonah was still holding Marcus like he might disappear, whispering apologies that were 14 years too late, but somehow, maybe, still in time. The wedding was called off by sunrise. I heard about it from Emery, who showed up at our hotel room at 7 a.m. looking like she'd aged 5 years overnight. Marcus was still asleep, exhausted from emotions and revelations. Coffee? I offered, gesturing to the small pot I'd made. She nodded, sinking into the uncomfortable chair by the window. I ended it. Because of Marcus? Because of the lies. She wrapped her hands around the mug. I found out what else Mother knew. Your mother. She'd been getting payments for years. Hush money to keep you in Pittsburgh. I sat on the bed's edge. Daniel told me. Did he tell you she saved every cent? Emery's laugh was bitter. Put it all in a trust for Marcus. It's been sitting there, gathering interest. She might have taken their money, but she never spent it. My throat tightened. My mother, imperfect and frustrating, had tried to protect us the only way she knew how. There's going to be a lawsuit, Emery continued. Jonah's filing charges against Claudia for fraud, conspiracy, and interference with parental rights. He wants me to testify. She met my eyes. I will. Emery, I thought I knew him, thought I understood why he was so closed off, so careful with emotions. I assumed it was just his nature. She set down the mug. But he was grieving. All this time, he was grieving a loss he didn't even know he'd suffered. You love him. I do, but I can't marry a man who calls another woman's name in his sleep, who's been searching for you in every woman he's dated for 14 years. She stood. He's at the Whitmore house, packing. He wanted to come here, but I told him to give you time. Thank you. She paused at the door. For what it's worth, I'm glad you kept Marcus. He's extraordinary. After she left, I sat in the silence, processing. The villain of my story, Claudia, was facing justice. The lost love had been found. The secret was out. So why did I feel so empty? Mom? Marcus sat up, rubbing his eyes. Was someone here? Emery, the wedding's off. He absorbed this. Because of us? Because of lies. I moved to sit beside him. How are you feeling? Weird. He pulled his knees up. He wants to know me, Jonah. He gave me his number, said to call whenever. He showed me a business card, already creased from handling. Is that okay? Of course it's okay. But what about us? You and him? I smoothed his hair. That's complicated. We're different people now. He still loves you. Marcus, he told me. Said he never stopped. He leaned against me. But you don't trust him. Trust. Such a small word for such a huge leap. My phone rang. Daniel. Claudia's been arrested, he said without preamble. Federal charges. The FBI's been building a case. Apparently Jonah's not the only family she's sabotaged over the years. What? She had a pattern, using Whitmore money and connections to manipulate, threaten, control. The evidence I provided was just the tip. He paused. You might want to prepare Marcus. This is about to become very public. He was right. By noon, news vans surrounded the Whitmore house. By evening, our faces were on every Boston news channel. The secret baby, the wronged mother, the heir who chose love over family, media catnip. Jonah called as we watched ourselves on the evening news. I'm sorry, he said immediately. I tried to keep your names out of it. It's okay. And strangely, it was. Marcus deserves to be acknowledged. Would you both have dinner with me? Somewhere private, just to talk. I looked at Marcus, who was pretending not to eavesdrop. Let me ask my son. Our son, Jonah corrected softly. Our son. The words I'd waited 14 years to hear. Marcus, your father wants to have dinner with us. His face lit up, then carefully composed itself into teenage nonchalance. Yeah, okay, if you want. I almost smiled. We'll come. Thank you. Jonah's voice was thick. Thank you for keeping him, for raising him, for being strong enough for both of us when I couldn't be. We'll see you at 7, I said, because I couldn't handle his gratitude. Not yet. As we got ready, Marcus asked, Do you think we can be a family, like a real one? I thought about trust and time and second chances, about Daniel's years of silent penance, about my mother's complicated protection, about Emery's graceful withdrawal. I don't know, I said honestly, but maybe we can try. It wasn't a promise, but it was a start. The courtroom was packed. 3 months of pre-trial media coverage had turned Commonwealth for Claudia Whitmore into Boston's trial of the century. I sat between Marcus and my lawyer, trying to ignore the cameras. You don't have to testify, my lawyer whispered again. But I did. For Marcus, for myself, for the 22-year-old girl who'd been terrorized into silence. Claudia looked smaller in her defendant's chair, designer suit replaced by conservative gray. Her attorney was arguing for dismissal, claiming the statute of limitations had expired. Then the prosecutor called me to the stand. State your name for the record. Camille Marie Lawson. The questions started gently. My age, occupation, how I'd met Jonah. Then they grew teeth. Can you describe the meeting with Mrs. Whitmore on March 15th, 14 years ago? I could. Every detail was carved into my memory. The marble coldness of her face. The lawyer's briefcase full of documents. The check with too many zeros. She said I was ruining her son's life, that if I continued the pregnancy, I'd be destroying his future. I met Claudia's eyes. She said girls like me were disposable. What happened when you refused the money? She told me I'd regret it, that she had ways of making problems disappear. I swallowed. Then she had someone follow me, for months. Pictures of me at work, at home, at prenatal appointments. The message was clear. The prosecutor presented the photos, Daniel's surveillance file, thick as a phone book. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Did you try to contact Mr. Whitmore? Repeatedly, his phone was disconnected, his apartment was empty, his email bounced back. I looked at Jonah, sitting in the victim section. I went to his parents' house once. Security turned me away, said there was no one there by that name. No one by that. The prosecutor let the absurdity hang. Your son's father ceased to exist? According to the Whitmores, yes. The defense attorney's cross-examination was brutal. Why hadn't I gone to the police? Why accept silence for so long? Why come forward now? Because my son deserved to know his father, I said simply. And his father deserved to know the truth. Marcus testified next. 13 years old, voice steady, explaining what it was like to grow up wondering why you weren't worth knowing. The courtroom was silent when he finished. Then came the surprise witness, my mother's estate lawyer. Mrs. Lawson Sr. came to me 8 years ago, he testified. She wanted to create a trust for her grandson. The funding source was unusual. Regular deposits from a Whitmore Industries subsidiary. He produced records. 14 years of payments, totaling nearly $500,000, blood money that my mother had transformed into a college fund. She never touched a cent, he said. Her instructions were clear, Everything was for Marcus when he turned 18. I cried then, for my complicated mother, who'd taken their money but not their control, who'd protected us the only way she could. Emery testified via video link from DC where she'd taken a new job. Her testimony was devastating. Years of family dinners where Claudia had casually mentioned Jonah's narrow escape from that gold digger. Finally, Jonah took the stand. I was 24, he began, in love for the first time. When Camille told me about the pregnancy, I was scared but happy. I went to my mother for advice. What happened? She said she'd handle everything, that Camille was just after money, that she'd already accepted a payoff. His voice broke. She showed me a letter, supposedly from Camille, saying she'd terminated the pregnancy and moved on. The prosecutor produced the letter. Daniel's forensic analysis proved it was forged. I believed it, Jonah continued. I was young and stupid and trusted my mother. When I tried to find Camille anyway to get closure, I hit dead ends everywhere. Why didn't you try harder? Because I was a coward. He looked directly at me. Because believing she'd left was easier than fighting my family. I failed her, failed them both. Claudia was convicted on multiple counts: fraud, conspiracy, harassment, criminal interference with parental rights. The judge called her actions a grotesque abuse of wealth and power. Sentencing would come later, but the damage was done. The Whitmore empire was in shambles. Board members fled. Stock prices plummeted. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, but Daniel appeared, now head of security for what remained of Whitmore Industries, and cleared a path. You okay? Jonah asked Marcus. Yeah. Marcus looked between us. Are we? I thought about justice and revenge, about time lost and futures possible. We're getting there, I said. And for the first time in 14 years, I meant it. 6 months later, I was frosting Marcus's 14th birthday cake when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Jonah holding a wrapped gift and looking nervous. You're early, I said, opening the door. I wanted to help set up. He'd been doing that lately, showing up early, staying late, finding excuses to extend his time with Marcus, with us. He'd moved to Pittsburgh 3 months ago, taking a small apartment downtown. Just temporarily, he'd said, but he'd enrolled Marcus in hockey leagues, joined the PTA at his school, and learned every coffee shop in a 5-mile radius. Marcus is at practice, I said. Daniel's bringing him home. I know. He set the gift on the counter. I actually wanted to talk to you first. My hands stilled on the frosting spatula. We'd been dancing around this for months. The careful co-parenting, the loaded glances, the almost touches that we both pulled back from. The estate finally settled, he said. Claudia's assets were liquidated to pay the civil judgments. The house in Beacon Hill is being sold. I'm sorry. And I was. Despite everything, losing a childhood home had to hurt. I'm not. He moved closer. That house was a museum of lies, but there's something I wanted you to have. He pulled out a small leather journal, worn with age. I found this in my old room, from the month after you left. He cleared his throat. After I thought you left. I opened it carefully, page after page of his handwriting, poems and letters and rambling thoughts, all addressed to me. Camille, I looked for you at the bookstore today. The new girl said you quit weeks ago. Where did you go? Why won't you answer my calls? See, your mother says she doesn't have a daughter named Camille. Am I going insane? Did I imagine you? I hired someone to find you. Mom says I'm being ridiculous, that you clearly don't want to be found. But this doesn't feel like you. The you I knew wouldn't just vanish. 6 months. You've been gone 6 months. I still set 2 coffee cups every morning. I had to stop reading, vision blurred with tears. I gave up, Jonah said quietly. I let them convince me you'd played me. It was easier than accepting that my mother might be capable of. He trailed off. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't fight harder. We were kids, I managed. Scared kids up against something bigger than us. You fought. You kept Marcus, raised him alone, built a life. He touched my hand carefully. You were brave enough for all of us. The front door burst open. Mom, Daniel taught me this sick move. Dad? Marcus stopped short, seeing us close together, hands touching. Should I come back? No, we said in unison, stepping apart. Daniel appeared behind Marcus, carrying hockey gear. In the months since the trial, he'd become an unexpected constant, driving Marcus to practice, teaching him self-defense, quietly ensuring our safety as the media attention slowly faded. Happy birthday Eve, kid, Daniel said, ruffling Marcus's hair. Your mom make the chocolate cake? Triple chocolate, I confirmed, as requested. Yes, Marcus dumped his gear. Are you staying for dinner, Daniel? If that's okay with your parents. Your parents, plural. It still sent a jolt through me every time. We settled into what had become our new normal. Jonah helping Marcus with homework while I cooked, Daniel setting the table and telling stories about his new security firm, the careful dance of people building something from the ashes of destruction. After dinner, as Marcus demolished his pre-birthday cake, my phone buzzed. Email from Emery. Subject: Hey, Aunt Camille. My breath caught. Attached was an ultrasound image. Surprise? Remember what I said about doing this on my own? Well, I am. Due in spring. And yes, I'd still love you to be the godmother. Marcus is going to be an amazing cousin. P.S. It's a girl. I'm naming her Hope. I showed the others, watched Marcus's face light up at becoming a cousin, saw Jonah's complex mix of emotions at his almost wife's news. Later, after Daniel had left and Marcus had retreated to call friends about his new cousin, Jonah and I stood on the small balcony, Pittsburgh's lights stretching before us. Emery's brave, he said, choosing to do it alone. She's not alone. She has us. All of us, if she wants. He turned to me. Is that what we are? An us? I thought about the journal full of grief, the 14 years of parallel loneliness, the slow, careful rebuilding of these past months. We're something, I said. I don't know what yet, but something. He nodded, understanding that some wounds need more than months to heal. That trust, once shattered, had to be rebuilt piece by delicate piece. I can wait, he said. I'm good at waiting now. Marcus appeared in the doorway. Movie time, it's tradition. Our tradition. New ones to replace what we'd lost. As we settled onto the couch, Marcus between us but reaching for both our hands, I let myself imagine a future. Not perfect, not without scars, but real, possible. My phone lit up with one last message. Daniel, security systems armed, perimeters clear. Happy birthday to our kid, our strange, pieced-together family, our second chance. Outside, Pittsburgh hummed with life. Inside, we were writing a new story. One where leaving didn't mean disappearing, where secrets came to light, where boys got to know their fathers and mothers got to stop running, where love, patient and stubborn, might finally be enough.
Never underestimate the power of truth. No matter how long it's been buried, it will always find a way to rise. Family isn't just built by blood, but by choice, courage, and genuine love. If you've ever been hurt by silence, remember this. The moment you speak up is the moment you reclaim yourself. Share this story if you believe justice and love are worth fighting for. And never forget, you are worthy of love, of knowing the truth, and of choosing happiness again.